Awesome. All right, I'm Paige. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome, everyone. And so where we're going to be picking up is at the very bottom full paragraph on page 8. So it's near the end of that bleak November. I know some of you in the heat wave were like, I could use a bleak November. But last week we were describing the last few lines of the paragraph above, when he says, I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. And I was like, darn it, I didn't think I'd get this far. I didn't prep my screen share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about that fourth dimension of existence just a little bit before we get into near the end of that bleak November. Now, this is also giving us time. If you're like, I can't find page 8, you got time. You got time to find it. No rush. We'll get there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share this. And this is I got teased a whole bunch about my ability to draw stick figures, so I just drew it myself with the computer. So one of the best descriptions that I ever heard of the fourth dimension of existence, when we talk about that fourth dimension, what we're really talking about, to make it as simple as it could possibly be, is a spiritual awakening. But one of the best ways to describe what that looks like, I heard from the author C.S. Lewis. He's the gentleman that wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And are we off to Narnia? Based on my tangents, I wouldn't surprise if we end up there. But the idea is that he was also a religious guy. And I was listening to one of his audiobooks because they happen to be free, and that is in my price point. And he described the fourth dimension. And he described it just like this. So on this diagram that's behind me, there's a little gentleman. Well, person. We don't know. A little stick person. A little stick figure, smiling, having a great time. Now, our little stick figure friend, this person is living in the second dimension. And all of us here today, recovered, unrecovered, sober, drinking, just glad you're here, doesn't matter. We are all living in the third dimension. And so we're in a different dimension than the second dimension. Now, when we talk to our friend, our little stick figure guy, and we say, hey, buddy, would you look at all those trees? He's like, what? What are you talking about? I don't see any trees. All I see is these circles and these rectangles. There are no trees. And it's like, would you look at that road that's over there? And he's like, I don't see a road. That's a triangle. And so what is the metaphor of that fourth dimension? That what happens is we begin to awaken spiritually, and we see the world at a greater depth, a depth that we could not have possibly seen before. So that's the little diagram. And some of you are like, I waited a week for that, man. If I had done it on my little sticky notes, y'all would have been mad at me and you would have teased me about my drawing skills. So that's what you get. I made it myself. And I'm way better at art than it looks like when I do the stick figures and I draw the things. I don't know what happens to me. I just can't do it. So one of the things, too, is it says I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. Catapulted. It does not take long to get well. It does not take long to have a spiritual awakening. And you might be here today and you're like, that couldn't possibly be me. I'm a bustard. And you might be like, girl, watch your profanity. What are you saying? No. Bustard, not ard. It's a type of bird. It's a large type of prairie bird. Kind of think turkey. And you might look at this big heavy bird and you might think, goodness gracious, that is a flightless bird. I am a flightless bird. I can't take this spiritual flight to make it to the fourth dimension of existence. A fun fact that you did not ask for, but you are going to get is that it's under the heading of Bustard is the largest flighted bird. So if you are here today and you're saying, no, this spiritual experience, it could not possibly happen to me, you got wings, baby. In fact, I think you might be a dickcissel, and you might be like, girl, your language. Early in this big book study, it is inappropriate. No. That's just a small migratory bird. So not only can you take flight, but you be traveling spiritually. That's That's my bird reference for today. Some of you are just grateful that I didn't mention the blue-footed booby, which is a delightful bird. Anywho, focus. Excuse me. All right. So what the takeaway is that you can recover. And what the takeaway is that it does not take long to recover. And again, if you're like, Paige, I'm not buying your Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe sort of reference with the stick figure guy. This is what the fourth dimension looks like. Happiness, peace, and usefulness. And I didn't have those things when I got here. I didn't have happiness. I definitely didn't have peace. And I did not experience usefulness. But it is in a way of life. And that's what's on offer. This isn't a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 3-year spin dry. This Alcoholics Anonymous, these 12 steps as outlined in this book, it is a way of life. But it is one that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And we only know that if we do it. Because if you tell me, what do you mean? I got to write some inventory? Blech. You want me to share that inventory with somebody? Blech. You want me to go make amends? Gross. You want me to do, and then continue to do that? No. That sounds awful. But when we take that course of action, man, we know at a deep experiential level that this is a way of life that is more wonderful as time passes, but I got to do it to believe it. Otherwise, you're just thinking I'm like making it up, like I might be making up birds. I don't make up birds. I'm very serious about birds and sobriety. I don't know why I'm like this. I do. I've taken a lot of inventory already. So near the end of that bleak November, and that is the idea. It is always darkest before the dawn. It is that idea that I've got to come to the end of myself. I've got to have an experience of the hopelessness that is the diagnosis of alcoholism before I am able and willing to grab a hold of the hope that is on offer. And it says, I sat drinking in my kitchen. Do you guys kind of relate to that idea of I'm hopeless, I know I'm a goner, I know I can't do it on my own, and I'm sitting and I'm just drinking the days away. He says, with a certain satisfaction, I reflected that there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through that night and the next day. Did we ever hide booze? Do we have any booze hiders? Anyone here? And I'm just going to throw it out. If you have ever had to hide the booze, and I'm going to throw this out, or sneak your drinking, all I'm just going to say, if I'm hiding it or I'm sneaking it, it's a problem, because why can't I just drink it? You know what I'm saying? So if you're like, no, I don't think I'm an alcoholic, but I got like, man, I had a real good hiding place in the laundry closet. Like I had some places. Now I will say, if you're trying to hide it from the Al-Anons, the toilet tank, amateur hour, but we'll keep it cool. But if I have to hide it, that means that I got a problem, and it is a sign that I've got the allergy of the body. And so he's drinking, and he's sitting alone in the house, drinking his days away. And it says, my wife was at work. Ooh, we've painted a picture, haven't we? Lois Wilson, she's out there supporting him, supporting the family, doing the deal, and he's just sitting there drinking. And if I felt like that, if I felt like this loser that just can't show up to life the way that I want to. My wife was at work. I wondered whether I dared hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it before daylight. So he's sitting there drinking, and he knows he's going to need to finish off another full bottle of gin. And he's like, could I hide it near the head of our bed? Lois was probably too exhausted from work to notice, because I'm like, that's not a good hiding spot. That's an easy one to find. But neither here nor there. It's not me to judge his hiding places. That's actually sort of Al-Anon behavior of like, you call that hiding? That's not good hiding. I'd find that in a minute. Alrighty. So my musing was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old school friend asked if he might come over. Now this cheery voice is our dear friend Ebby Thacher. Now, yeah, Rob knows. And if you're wondering, so you can write down Ebby Thacher, but you won't need to write this down. Ebby Thacher's middle name, Throckmorton. Woo! Ebby Throckmorton Thacher. You know, like my middle name, it's Marion. And I will say, it was my grandmother's name, so I will not disparage, but I will say there is something to be said about Throckmorton. Woo! You can kind of tell. I don't think he went by his middle name, but you could tell that's a good drinking name, you know, Throckmorton. You get sober at AA and you get a different name. It's like Dumpster Jim. You know, they're not as cool as when you're, Throckmorton, woo! So this, my music was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old school friend asked if he might come over. It says he was sober. Now that is in italics, which is, in literary convention, it means it's important. There is something that is radical and revolutionary about the fact that Ebby Thacher is sober. It's so important he had to put it in italics. Yo, Throckmorton, my guy, Ebby Thacher, he's sober. Italics, because that's what it is. Now, for a long time, I would teach this because this was information that was given to me, and I would share it. And it was that idea that in the 1930s that to put anything in italics, it cost extra money. Well, that is not true. It didn't cost any extra money to put anything in italics. But why? In fact, it was probably right around the 1930s when that got no price comparison. But why would that myth persist? It's historically inaccurate, but I shared it and I heard it shared, and why would that myth persist? And so the parable of the myth, because when we talk about history, especially our history, the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's parables. It is stories to convey a meaning. And even if we find out, wait a minute, it didn't happen the way I exactly thought it happened or I was told it happened, yeah, that's okay. It's a parable. It's a story to convey a meaning. And so what is the meaning of, it costs extra money to be in italics? Again, it didn't cost extra money. But if you have ever gone to a business meeting, and if you have not, feel free to join the One Day at a Time group. Always looking for service committed members and get involved. But if you were ever involved in a home group, and you've gone to a business meeting, that's what we call it in North America, and I know over in the UK it's more commonly called a group conscience. And so you get involved, and you propose a motion, and that is a motion to spend money. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, the fighting begins. Somebody that's like a Wall Street executive, is like, we can't spend 40 extra cents on the, paper coffee cups. Absolutely not, and we start fighting. And so the parable, the idea of the parable is that we had to get about 80 drunks to agree to spend money on it, and which is to tell us that it is important. So it's just another way to emphasize the italics, even though it's not historically accurate. I always like my history, especially when it's got a little bit of spice, which is to say historical inaccuracies. All right. So he was sober. Ebby Throckmorton Thacher was sober. And this is wild. It says it was years since I could remember his coming to New York in that condition. The condition of sobriety. It was years since I could remember him showing up to New York sober. And it says, I was amazed. Again, I think we're beginning to paint a picture about what Ebby Thacher's drinking career was a little like. He was sober. I'm amazed. I'm bowled over at this information. And then it goes, rumor had it. And then there's a song that goes, rumor had it. And that's all I know of the song. And whenever I get to this part of the book, only those words make their way into my brain forever. And I don't need any rest of the song. I'm stuck with the earworm I've got. But rumor had it that he had been committed for alcoholic insanity. So the hot gossip, the tea that was spilled about our guy, Ebby Thacher, was that he had to be locked up because of his drinking. And then Bill Wilson, he's pondering his friend and his friend's commitment. And it says, I wondered how he had escaped. Not successfully completed his treatment program and was released back into society as a reformed man. No, I'm just imagining that Bill Wilson is picturing like Ebby Thacher or like ripping bed sheets and like tying them together to shimmy out the window and like trying to outrun the guards. Like that's the visual I have. Like, I wonder, did he use a spoon to try to like dig his way out like Shawshank Redemption style? Like how was he getting out there? Which again, we're kind of painting a picture. He probably just meant, how did he get out of that predicament? Probably not as literal as I like to visualize it, but that's what happens in here, and it's my personal nightmare, so I'll share it with you. You're welcome, and I'm sorry. Alrighty. So it says, I wondered how he had escaped. Of course, he would have dinner, and then I could drink openly with him. Unmindful of his welfare, I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days. You know, he's not thinking, hey man, this guy just shimmied out of the institution. Like, maybe I shouldn't drink with this guy. He's like, no, it's my buddy, my drinking buddy. Woo, Abby, let's tie one off. Not the bed sheets, but like, woo, let's tie one of those on, you know? And he goes on to say, I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days, those times where drinking was fun and the consequences weren't piling up as they are now. There's oftentimes that progression of drinking starts out as fun. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's you know, for me, I describe it as a relief and a release. But then it transitions into fun with consequences. And then by the end, it's pretty much just consequences. And I'm taking a drink just to take the edge off the pain that I'm experiencing. So he's like, oh, maybe we can have some of those fun times we used to. It says there was a time we had chartered an airplane to complete a jag. And we're gonna do a pop over to Lois Remembers here in a sec. Well, actually, we'll do it right now. So I would read, there was this time we chartered an airplane to complete a jag. And I'll let you know, when I was reading this story for the first few times, especially by myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, who the heck cares, Bill? Like, who cares? I don't care that you're a stock guy. I don't care about your stuff. Who cares? And then it's like, oh, somebody, what do they call it? A PJ? Somebody got themselves a PJ, a private jet. Somebody's a fancy smancy drinker. Well, good for you. I had trouble putting my shoes on. You're getting a private jet. I'm like, I don't relate. I hate you and you smell bad. Well, let me read from Lois Remembers. It's page 76. If you have your handy dandy copy of Lois Remembers, and if you're like, why would I have that book? That is a reasonable question. Yep, I don't expect you to, but let's have a look at Lois Remembers, page 76, and let's see if we can relate to this story a little bit more, because I don't even think, there was a lot of times I couldn't make it on the bus, let alone a jet. So if you do have a copy of Lois Remembers, we're at the very, very, very bottom paragraph on page 76. And it goes on to say, whenever his work took him near Albany, that's just a city in New York, the state of New York. I'm going to do some labor in explaining the geography for those that don't know. There's New York City, but that's also in the state of New York. Sometimes naming conventions just get redundant. Did you know the capital of the country, Djibouti, is Djibouti City? Get that little fun fact you didn't need. Some people are like, is that the word of the day? Well, it is Brian, so I wouldn't be surprised. He's the one that gives it to me. All right, so whenever his work took him near Albany, Bill would stop in to see his old friend Ebby, and they always got drunk together. On one of these sprees, a brilliant idea hit them. Anyone ever been on a spree and get some brilliant ideas? Ooh, I was brainstorming. Woo! Ebby had heard that a new airfield was about to be opened by the Equinox House in Manchester, Vermont. So they were going to open a brand new airport. Oh, this is exciting, you guys. This is a big day for Manchester. It says, they hired a plane, wired the time of arrival to Miss Orvis. the owner of the hotel, and stocked up well for the flight. Now, I know we were joking about my flight that I got to take after this, and we're like, have you packed? Well, I will tell you, when they say stocked up well for the flight, they're not talking about remembering their toothbrush. And then I have this moment, did I pack a toothbrush? I did. What they're talking about is they stocked up well with the booze. They were making sure they got their liquids, and they didn't have to worry about TSA having a measurement of how much it would be. They were able to and I just imagine like crates, like, we stocked up well, or like taking like one of those roller suitcases. I don't think those had not been invented yet. Little fun fact about those. But those rolling suitcases, and you just hear the click, 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 click as it like rolls because it's all full of bottles. That's the visual that comes to mind. Again, historically accurate? Absolutely not, but this is what happens in here. So they stocked up well for the flight. Oh boy, did they ever. So it says, this was a gala day for Manchester. Man, this is a big deal. A big deal. It says, Miss Orvis had called out the band to greet the first plane to arrive at the new airport. Oh no, she called a band. And I'm just imagining, you got tubas, you got like, I feel like it's got to be a special occasion to have a tuba. You don't tuba on like a casual Tuesday. Like, it's got to be a big deal for a tuba. But you got the whole band is there. Like, man, this is a big deal. So to arrive at the new airport, and the town fathers all gathered at the airfield. So the town fathers are anyone and everyone of prominence and stature and importance. So it's all the big fancy people, again, top hat sort of folk that are showing up. They might have a monocle and maybe have a monopoly on some hotels. I didn't plan to go on that little tangent. Just a Monopoly joke. Jeez Louise. It's a weird one today, as it is most days. Thanks for sticking with me. Love you guys. But the town fathers, so everyone that is everyone of importance is there. Say, they all gathered at the airfield. The plane flew in. The band played lustily. The welcoming committee got ready. And Bill and Ebby stepped down from the plane and fell flat on their faces, dead drunk. Does that sound a little familiar? I mean, nobody was getting a tuba when I showed up, but can I relate to this? Paige, this is a very important day. I need you to show up on time and sober. And can we relate to doing neither? Wham, that. And I'm like, I get that. So it says, back on page 9 of Bill's story, his coming was an oasis in this dreary desert of futility. The very thing, an oasis. Drinkers are like that. And again, when I first sort of experienced this paragraph, I'm like, who the heck cares, Bill? What does Ebby Thacher's shenanigans have anything to do with me? What about me? The hallmark of my self-centeredness. What about me? Well, what Ebby Thacher, or what Bill Wilson is trying to do with Ebby Thacher is what Bill Wilson spent 8 pages doing. So in this paragraph, Bill Wilson is trying to qualify Ebby Thacher as an alcoholic. That's what he's trying to do. Because we're going to see the fact that he is sober is remarkable. Because again, for an alcoholic to be sober, to get sober, to stay sober, that is nothing less than miraculous. And so we want to see that, like, Bill Wilson knows that Ebby Thacher is an alcoholic just like him. And one of the things that I'll say too is, it's like, it is really helpful to have that gift of identification. You know what I mean? To know from my own experience that you've drank the way that I've drank, you've experienced what I've experienced. And that is what Bill Wilson is trying to do. He's trying to 12-step us. He's trying to share from his own experience what his drinking was like, what the obsession of the mind was like. And we're trying to hold a mirror up to his experience. And we can do that with Ebby Thacher as well. Our boy Ebby. Now, and I was giggling because I always, like you guys know, I like to have my space with the history. It's the only place I can handle it. I got allergies. And we've only got one history husband here today. So I can get away with it. That's Rob. I can get away with a little. So there's a saying. Is it true? Probably not. Probably not true at all. But again, we're trying to convey a message. And so the saying goes that Bill Wilson was always like, man, if I get as bad as Ebby Thacher, that's when I'll stop drinking. And so whether he said that or not, what we're trying to see is that Ebby Thacher is a real deal. He's got this thing and he's got it bad. And the dreary desert of futility is the life that we live with untreated alcoholism. And what he thought was going to be an oasis, which is, oh, my drinking buddies there, we can recapture the glory years, and I will say it is a thing that, like, alcoholics, we're called emotionally immature. I think Harry Tebow said, like, king baby, rude, but, I mean, we are human beings that are trying to recapture experiences that we had when we first started drinking. You know what I mean? What do you mean I'm emotionally immature? I'm just trying to feel the same way I did when I was 10 or 16 or 18 when I took my first drink. What do you mean, right? So, this oasis. Now, the drinking together is really a mirage. But what he's going to find is a real oasis. He's going to find a way out of the desert. Oh, he's going to find the answer, the solution, and the solution that I need to find in Alcoholics Anonymous if I have the illness that is alcoholism. So it says the door opened and he stood there, fresh-skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different what had happened. And I want us to make a note that in this moment, Ebby Thacher, Throckmorton, has carried a message, and he has not even opened his mouth. Bill Wilson has not said a word to him, but he can see the change that has come over him. He can see the change that has happened to him. And again, I am not called to tell you what I think or what I believe. What I am called is to show you the change, to be a demonstration of the change that has happened to me. And man, you can see it. I've got some news. If you're trying to avoid doing the work, people can see it. If you're doing the work, people can see it. We can see it. You can see when the light starts to come on in somebody's eyes. And where it often begins to happen for the first time, just in my experience, is when they get to the fourth column of their resentments. That's when that light really starts to come on. And you can see that change. It is visceral and it is real. And he can see it. And it's enough to get him curious. It's enough to get him curious. So our boy, he doesn't have to be your boy. Rob's like, I'm not really a fan of Ebby. I'm like, I love Ebby. And he's like, Ebby's like really selfish. Spoilers, Ebby is really selfish. She's like, I don't want to work with other people. But I got a soft spot for Ebby. Codependent, by the way. Actually, I'll throw this out there. I know you guys can't relate to being in a codependent relationship. I know no one here has ever been in one of those like hostage situations where you're just holding on to each other for dear life. And if I can fix you, it'll fix me and you'll go back to making me feel whole. I know that no one can relate to that, but just by chance, somebody might know somebody who has alcoholism and might have been at one time maybe a little codependent. I thought I would share that with you guys about our boy Ebby, just to help him come alive for you. So it says he was inexplicably different what had happened. I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it. Disappointed, but curious, I wondered what had gotten into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Excuse me, you're turning down a drink? Who is this weirdo that lies before me? Like, what? What? And it says, come, what's all this about? I queried. Again, it is enough to make him ask. He looked straight at me, simply but smilingly. He said, "I've got religion." Now, when Ebby Thacher says, "I've got religion," what he is referring to is he had gotten involved in the Oxford group, the Oxford movement, which happened to be religious in nature. We are not religious in nature. We just yoinked some of their ideas and made them open to everyone. Which, I mean, it is kind of an alcoholic thing to be like, "That's great, that's mine now." They didn't mind. They were fine with it. I mean, we didn't ask consent, but like, we didn't need to ask, we didn't need to do a whole amends after. But so he was involved in religion. And Bill Wilson's response is the response of so many of us. So keep in mind, page 8, that first full paragraph, where it says, "No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I'd met my match. I'd been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. He is hopeless. He is desperate. He knows that in and of himself, he has no way out. And yet before him stands his old buddy, who drank the way that he drank, who went through what he went through, who experienced the things that he experienced, that was just as hopeless and beaten and broken as Bill. And he is a living demonstration of the power that is available to each and every one of us. And he says, "I've got religion." So Bill Wilson, as open-minded as only the dying can be, I was aghast. Whoa, no, aghast. No, thank you. No. That's what he's talking about. And that is so many of us. We come and we're like, "I will do anything." And then we see the GOD word on the wall or on the Zoom screen. And it's like, anything but that, that is us. So it says, "I was aghast." So that was it. Last summer, an alcoholic crackpot. Now I suspected a little cracked about religion. So he's like, this guy, he had lost his mind with drinking. I bet he's just as nuts with this whole religion thing. He had that starry-eyed look. So I'm going to point something out. He sees the light that is on in his eyes. He sees the change that is in front of him. And he immediately dismisses the miracle that lies before him. How often have I done that? In fact, actually, we're going on a thing. So I know I can be a little much. I had a sponsee, and she would roll her eyes at me, and I could hear it happening on the phone. I could hear it happening. I remember she would come. I was doing a step study with another sponsee of mine, and this sponsee that would show up. And again, she had asked me for help. I'm just going to throw out that. I wasn't like, she had asked me. I didn't scoop her up. She asked me, "Will you help me?" So this is her board decision, which is a warning to everyone who's asked me to sponsor them. That's on you. It's a reflection of your spiritual condition. Anyway, focus. So she was at the thing, and I remember this so clearly. She's like, "Why is it always God and joy with you guys?" Yeah, babe knows what it's like. Babe knows the struggle. You get it, right? And I have got some news. If you find me annoying today, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. I know. But if you find Babe annoying, that's rude and uncalled for. No, because who would ever? Babe's the best. But he's also known for his enthusiasm. But here's the thing. If you find me annoying today, which God bless you for sticking it out at this study as long as you have, if you have. But if you find me annoying today, I've got some news that is actually a direct reflection of your spiritual condition and has nothing to do with me. Oh, I know. Because when I got here, I would see those people that were happy and sober and they were laughing. And I thought those big stupid jerks thought they were better than everyone. And they're just, I've recovered, I like to book and a higher power player, and I'm like miserable, and I thought they're judging me. They weren't. They were just living their life, and there was an effervescent joy that was radiating off of them, and I'm like, it's too bright, like a spiritual vampire. Like, actually, that's a good metaphor, as a spiritual vampire, because I wanted everyone else to fix me, validate me, give me approval, make me feel better, and your light, it's too bright, I can't be in the direct light, so really the takeaway is, if I'm annoying, it's a you problem, not a me problem. I'll help you write inventory and me, I promise. And so that is Bill Wilson's response, which is a human normal response. I don't want to be like that guy. They're just so, it's too much. Like just that sort of dismissing the miracle they see before him. Dismissing the miracle that he sees before him, which is the same thing that I will do. It says, he had that starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire, all right. But bless his heart, let him rant. Besides, my gin would last longer than his preaching. Now, if you are not from the South, which is the southern part of the United States, you might not know that bless his heart does not mean how it actually sounds. Because I think it is lovely. Bless your heart. I want your little heart to be blessed. Bless you. No. Bless, and especially if you throw it in with a sweet summer child. Oh, bless your heart, you sweet summer child. You old boy, you're on fire, all right. Bless your heart, you sweet summer child. Bill Wilson is being condescending. I have a friend that I would do this to. It was a friend of mine who absolutely could not stand when people were condescending. I'm sure many of us relate to that, but my friend couldn't stand it. And whenever the word condescending or the topic came up in conversation, I'm such a dick. I would turn to my friend and I would be like, condescending, that means talking down to people. They did not appreciate that, but I think I'm funny, every time, Paige, but so Bill Wilson, and again, I just want to point out, where is Bill Wilson? He's in the gutter, and what is he doing? He's judging from the gutter. Anyway, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but man, I tell you, I know what it is like to be in the gutter and judging you, and yeah. So yeah, bless his heart, you sweet summer child. And if you're wondering, what is a modern equivalent, or a AA sort of equivalent to bless your heart? It would be keep coming back. Now, there are times where it is meant in earnest, but that time, 90% of the time it's meant in earnest. But when you show up to your sponsor, maybe you guys haven't had this experience, and you share with your sponsor, you're like, plans? Here are my plans. I've got an idea. And maybe it's like, I've fallen in love with Mr. Right, or Mr. Right Now, or Mr. Right Out of Jail, or Mr. Grippy Socks, and you share that with your sponsor, and we're engaged, we do that, and your sponsor goes, keep coming back. That is that same tone. And if you're new here and people in this meeting tell you to keep coming back, it is not meant in the condescending way. It's meant how I would like bless your heart to be meant. It's meant in earnest. Anywho, Bill Wilson judging. And he's like, I'm just going to drink through his preaching. Now, this is important. It said, but he did no ranting. I'm not, and to be fair, I know I got a little enthusiastic. I go on my tangents, but I'm not here to rant or rave. I'm not here to convince anyone what course of action they need to take. I'm here to lay down what is the information of what is alcoholism, the solution and the program of action, and to show you what I have done. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to make you. I can't chase you, especially if you go up a flight of stairs. You're up there by yourself. I'm not getting up there. Sometimes people will be like, Paige, hope you're staying out of trouble. And every single time I'm like, as long as trouble's up a flight of stairs, I'm nowhere near it. Yeah? So you get why that's funny. Alrighty. So he did no ranting. In a matter-of-fact way, he told how two men had appeared in court. Now, there were two men on one court date and there were three gentlemen in total. The three gentlemen in total, one was Shep Cornell, the second was Sebra Graves, and the third was Roland Hazard. And about Sebra Graves, his middle name, you're going to remember this, Quackenbush. So we got Throckmorton and we got Quackenbush. I absolutely made like Throckmorton and like Quackenbush stickers because I'm a child. So those were the three guys. And so in a matter-of-fact way, he told how two men had appeared in court, persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told of a simple religious idea. Now, that simple religious idea is the spiritual awakening. That's what we're talking about. And that is our solution. A spiritual awakening isn't religious, but where the idea of it came from, that we yoinked, was from religion. And then it said, and a practical program of action. And today in 2025, the practical program of action for us is the 12 steps. Now, in this moment, Bill Wilson has the three pieces of information that we all need to know in order to experience sobriety. He knows what his problem is, and he learned that from his trips to the town's hospital and from Dr. Silkworth. He learned of the allergy of the body, that once he starts to drink, he cannot control the amount he takes. And he learned of the obsession of the mind, that when he is sober, he will have a thought that takes him back again and again and again to the first drink. And that is the problem. And then in this moment, he now learns of the solution, which is the spiritual awakening, and the program of action, which today for us is the 12 steps. Now, I'm going to break this down a little bit, but I just want to finish the paragraph before I do. It says, that was 2 months ago. And the result was self-evident. It worked. When I first got sober where I live in the world, people would say things that are not in line with what is in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember people saying in the rooms when I first got sober, you have to wait a year before you can sponsor. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Our boy Throckmorton, Ebby Thacher, he didn't have to be your boy, he's my buddy. I love him. I'm just making friends with these long dead co-founders who would want nothing to do with me, but I'm like, we're besties, woo! But my boy, Ebby Thacher, he was 2 months sober. 2 months sober. Again, I want to emphasize, it does not take long to get well. It does not take long to recover. It does not take long to have a spiritual experience. It does not take long to begin to carry this message to others. And if our boy, Ebby Thacher, had waited a year, we would not be here. He would have been drunk well before he was able to carry this message to Bill Wilson. And that is important. Because honestly, if you're here today, I'll be honest with you. If you're new, the steps don't look appealing. It's like, ew, gross, no thank you. Yuck. Inventory, amends, yucky, yucky, yucky. And I see that G word all over the place. Gross, 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 gross. No thank you. I don't want any of that. And that's understandable. But if you're here today and you cannot stay sober, if you're here today and how you are feeling is like you're being eaten alive from the inside out. You know, there's something deep within your soul that is screaming and your skin doesn't fit. And you don't know how you're going to make it another day, either alive or sober. The message that it doesn't take long to get well. It doesn't take long to recover. It doesn't take long to experience that fourth dimension. A new freedom, a new happiness, a new peace, a new usefulness. It does not take long to get there is a message of hope. One of the things that people would say when I first got sober is like, if you walk 40 miles into the woods, you got to walk 40 miles back. Absolutely not. I got to clean up the mess that I made 40 miles, but I can get well very quickly. And I got to continue it though. I've never done this thing. But that is a message of hope. And the result, self-evident, it worked. He can see before him the solution. Now, with the time I have left before I have to pass it over to Peppa, but she lets me get away with taking more time than I'm supposed to. Thanks for not timing me, Susan. Love you. What I'll do is I'll just break down the history a little bit. And so, I gotta close that so that I can see that, and I gotta make that big. Hopefully you can see that okay. Let me know if you can't. If you can't, there's not too much I can do though, so love you. I'm so sorry. So, how did this come to be? And I'll give a brief summary of the history. On page 26, you don't have to pop over there. You can if you want. There is a certain American businessman. His name is Roland Hazard. And he struggled with alcoholism. I mean, he was rich, so it wasn't called alcoholism. It was like, oh, you seem to have a case of the nerves, or you seem to imbibe too much. It must be other things. But Roland Hazard, he went from doctor to doctor to doctor to psychiatrist to various forms of treatment to try to find a solution for his drinking. And nothing worked, which points to the idea that he has the allergy of the body because he could not find a way to moderate. And when he tried to get sober and stay sober, he couldn't, which points to the obsession of the mind. Now, he went over to Switzerland to see Dr. Carl Jung. And there's a myth. And again, it is a myth that I told again and again and again that Roland Hazard wanted to see Sigmund Freud, but he had to settle for Carl Jung. And why would I tell that story? One, I thought it was true. Two, what is the parable of that myth? The parable of that myth, the lesson from that myth, is a couple things. One is, doesn't a spiritual experience always seem to begin with us not getting what we want? That's where it always seems to start. The other parable of the myth is this idea that Sigmund Freud believed that all problems of the mind could be solved in and of the mind, where Carl Jung believed that there were some cases that required a spiritual experience. And that's the difference. And so did he go see, or did he want to see Sigmund Freud? No. But he saw the second most famous psychiatrist in the world. So he's got money to spend. And he works intensively with Carl Jung. And at the end of it, he drinks again. And he goes back to Carl Jung and he says, dude, what the heck happened? And Carl Jung says, I'm sorry I misdiagnosed you. You have a mind of an alcoholic, a chronic alcoholic. People like you do not get well. People like you do not recover. The only hope that there could possibly be for someone like you is a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience. And Roland Hazard's like, oh, yikes. Well, I go to church. He's like, dude, hanging out at church isn't going to get it for you. It's great you're going to church because that means you already believe, but that's not going to produce it. Just like for us, hanging out at meetings is wonderful. It is lovely, but it is not enough to produce the spiritual awakening. So Roland Hazard, knowing that if he does not have this, he is going to continue to relapse and die, he finds and gets involved with the Oxford group. Now, the Oxford group, its main focus was not about alcoholism. It was about living a surrendered life to God. It was about, surrendering one's life to their God. And it wasn't denominational. Like they were Christian, but it wasn't like you got to believe this, you got to believe that. It just happened to be Christian. And they had a series of beliefs and a series of actions. And Roland Hazard's like, well, I need a spiritual awakening, and you guys are kind of all about that. Now, there were a couple guys who had gotten sober in the Oxford group, Bill Pickle being the first. That's his name. But he gets involved, and he takes what later became the course of action that is the 12 steps, and he stayed sober. And then he goes and he summers in Vermont because he's wealthy enough to do that, to go summer in Vermont. Now, Ebby Thacher, he was on trial and he had done two things. The first thing was a DUI. That DUI where he had crashed into an old lady's farmhouse and rolled down the window and asked for a cup of coffee, which is classic. The other thing that he had done was he was painting the house. And then he started got little, you start doing a project and you need some beer to keep you going. And then he gets half the house painted and he's just drinking. And then some birds show up, and birds are going to do what birds are going to do. So he does the only logical thing, which is to get his shotgun. And he goes and tries to shotgun the birds. Now, in my headcanon, I just imagine he's too drunk, he misses them. But that's not cool. You're not allowed to do that. So he was looking at a 6-month sentence. And the week that he happens to be on trial, our boy Roland Hazard, he's there. And he shows up at court. Now, the judge was actually Seba Graves' father, Judge Graves. So him, Seba Graves, Shep Cornell, they show up. And they had been sort of involved in the Oxford group. And actually, Seba Graves had tried to get sober in the Oxford group, and a number of years later sobered up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know I'm pushing it for time. I'm going to wrap it up soon. And Judge Graves would have heard the rumors. I always think like Real Housewives of Vermont. They had heard the rumors of Ebby Thacher, or of Roland Hazard and his drinking escapades, and they would have heard the rumors of his sobriety. And the judge was like, all right, for you, we'll let him go into your care. He's got to be sober on Monday. And Ebby Thacher has some impetus to take the course of action, which becomes our 12 steps, to have the spiritual awakening, which is our solution. And in this moment, on page 9, Bill Wilson has the 3 pieces of information. He knows what the problem is, he knows what the solution is, and he has the program of action. And that's the information that we need to know. So I will wrap it up there with less than a minute. Thanks for your patience, Peppa. Over to you.